happens when you just want to be regal and elegant, but want to be badass while covered in blood? Hey everyone, it's been a while, but I'm back. And I figured I want to return to Bloodborne with a strange weapon. So, going into the form I mentioned, I consider the Beast Cutter an elegant but very savage weapon. Anyway, it's a trick weapon wielded by the old hunters. This thick iron cleaver cleaves through most of the toughest of beast hides, when transformed into blades splits into sections, allowing for one to lash from a fashion of a heavy whip. So that's where I'm getting at with this. This crude weapon for both relies on brute force and is regularly inelegant, suggesting that it hunts the earliest hunters made from horrific affairs, painted in sagrine blacks and red. So, take the gentleman's cane and make it into something that's more of a weapon, and that's where you get the Beast Cutter. It gets away from all the elegance, but still has a regimented idea of it still there. Anyway, let's get started. Now, going on to the visual animation, visually, the standard form is that of a meat cleaver with teeth. Well, lack of a better word for it. No, there's no better word. Those are damn teeth. Those are meant to cut through you or chew through you, if you will. It looks fairly heavy, but not so heavy that it can't be wielded. But though it doesn't look like it's iron or metal, it looks like it's more of a stone texture. More of any iron at all, a very wrought iron appearance. Very neat. Now, when switching, you simply take your weapon and you whip it. Whip it good. Now, it still looks like a giant cleaver, except now you got the sections all separated, and you can see the wire that would supposedly hold all this together, you know, unrealistically. Though I do want to mention right there, you can see a handbrake, well, pedal. Normally you see that on a motorcycle, but here it is right there. Probably the release mechanism. But anyway, the idea of this weapon is simply, it's still a cleaver, and now it spins all over the place at a much greater range. And range is the best name of this game, because this weapon has some mad range. But let's get started on the animations. First, just a plain Beast Cutter here, or a Beast Cleaver if you will. So the basic attacks is what you kind of expect it to be. You kind of whip the weapon using its weight on your opponent, and then the teeth do all the talking. Now the power attack is kind of like using more of a club if you will. And the power attack is using like a club down right into the ground. Looks like it still has a weight to back that up. Now the back step attack is a bit of a stab, which is questionable. And the light step heavy attack, see it's a quick bash. No different from most other attacks. Now the light rolling attack is a uppercut. And the heavy rolling attack is no different as usual. Okay. Now the plunge attack, see it's using the weapon like pretty much somewhere between a club and a cleaver. And then you got the switch attack, which you can see whip the weapon forward. Now the basic attack you see here is similar to what the gentleman's cane would be. It's kind of using as a whip, side to side. No better word for it, I guess, at the time. Now the power attack is you kind of wing the weapon overhead and some kind of well overdone, pretty much slam on the head, which is an incredible range. Look at that. However, there's no power attack. That's the big trade-off for this weapon. No power attack at all for the chain. Now, see a light step attack, you can do a little quick whip, nice good range on that. The power attack version is a bit of a longer range. You see that? Just barely. Like that's almost 3 meters. That's incredible. That's like one of the greatest range for any melee weapon. So light rolling attacks, a quick uppercut, no different from the standard version of the cleaver. And of course, no power attack version, no different. And then you got the plunge attack, which is kind of like, again, using the same way as you would the cleaver, just whips out. And then you got the switchback attack. Very simple. Now, going on to the stats for the Beast Cutter. Well, the weapon, not surprisingly, doesn't have a very high bonus damage. This weapon's more of an AoE weapon. But the base damage is actually rather high, at 92 starting off, so it's actually pretty good. That's comparable to a lot of other weapons out there, even slightly better, just the bonus damage not so much. Going on to the special stats. Well, you can see the durability is actually quite high for a whip. It's not usually a problem when it comes to durability, depending on what your gems might be. The rest of the stats is nothing exceptional. Going on to the attributes. You see for true bonus, we got a D for strength, an E for dexterity, and an E for arcane. And for the attribute requirement, you can need 11 strength, 9 dexterity, and that is all. So we can see the bonus doesn't draw on a whole lot there. So in the long run, this weapon will be a little bit weaker compared to most, but that's most AoE weapons. They're meant to hit multiple targets at once, or give you a safe distance from your target. This weapon does both pretty well. Alright, moving on from that, the actual damage this weapon inflicts. We got here that it's mainly bullet blunt damage, which makes sense. There's no thrust at all in this weapon. Makes sense? None at all. Okay, from that we'll move on to the upgrades. Now when upgrading the Beast Cutter, pretty much it's bullet straight upgrade, but you don't get a whole lot, understandably. Your bonus is only around 7 damage, and your base is only 9 to 10. So, could be better, could be worse. A very standard upgrade. And even several upgrades going forward, you don't get really much polarity change. The Arcane went to a D, but that's worth if you have to rebuild. Now, of course, on me being rusty not thinking, I put the weapon and took it to another upgrade further. So we'll just be hush-hush about this one. So you can see the polarity for strength went to a C, and on the next one, the dexterity go to a D, but besides the point. Moving on to performance. Now for the Beast Cleaver. Now the base version is quite rapidly quick, no different from any other beginner weapon, so it's fairly useful in that regard. Though I'm not really surprised or wowed by it. It's kind of the expectation is the base form, meant mainly for one-on-ones, but the whip form is something else entirely, although incredibly slow. Its wide angle attack and the reach of that attack is quite something. Like it just hit opponents back to back, right beside each other, all in front of you, just entirely hidden areas. Look at that. Easily. Just you gotta be careful and choose your time, because you can see here, I'm getting hit easily with the opponents having plenty of gaps in between my attacks. So that's the big drawback, is the speed of the whip. Now next, let's go against a bit of a bigger target, and a bit more aggressive, and which I need to work on my dodging a bit more, get the rush shaken off. Now, the base Cleaver doesn't really do anything as I expected. It doesn't do a whole lot. Could be better weapons, could be worse. The power attack version, charged power attack, does okay. But let's try the whip. That's what we're all here for. Now the whip, you can see it easily does lots of damage, but doesn't stagger so much, does it? So yes, you gotta be very careful. Now I didn't mention it earlier, but you probably saw me there, and I forgot all about it when doing this recording, but the weapon has no L2 move. It's a free one-handed. Excellent excellent camera work there, I can see. But anyway, moving on from that, let's go to the armored opponents. Now, I wasn't expecting really to do anything, and I'm right. This weapon's just terrible against an armored opponent. It's pointless. The base form just barely gets a pass, and the whip, oh, the whip's terrible. It's awful. It's like you couldn't choose a worse weapon to fight these guys with. It's slow, it barely does any damage. Sure, it hits a wide range. But yeah, you think, okay, so I'm not going to fight the Armored Maiden. You're wrong. I'm going to fight her with this weapon. But first, I'm going to open up with the Cleaver to get my point across, if I already haven't. So the Cleaver is quick, but short range. So fighting this bitch could be a bit of a difficult, more excellent camera work there, you see. Okay, now we can see that this weapon, the Cleaver version, is just terrible. It's a bad idea. I could do one power attack, and there you go. One stagger, not worth it. Whip, however, again, not much damage. But there's at least got one edge in this fight that she doesn't. I got some serious range. Like, this is me keeping her out of range altogether. Hitting her from a safe distance. It's not even fair when you think of it like this. A slow-moving opponent with limited reach doesn't stand a fucking chance. Let's change it up a bit. A Shadow of Yharnam is drastically different. No armor, very quick, good range. Got both types, the flame and the dedicated sword user. So that said, this weapon doesn't actually fare all that great, because their reach is at least 2/3 of mine. That's pretty significant. They can close that gap quickly. And damage, it's okay. This weapon's not meant to do a whole lot of damage. It's meant to hit a lot of people at once. These guys can actually dodge so many of the moves, so I find that using the Cleaver to be a better option. Just simply getting between their strikes. So, the whip is great and all, but it's not a be-all, end-all kind of weapon. Even if you do outmaneuver your opponent in terms of reach. So, in a sense, it's pretty well balanced in that regard. Let's move on from this. Okay, moving on to the pros and cons of the Beast Cleaver. At least the Beast Cutter Cleaver version, anyway. On the pros, well, the weapon is nimble and quick, as it's designed to be. Now, both the whip and the cleaver actually has serrated damage, I forgot to mention earlier, but just 20% more damage to beast-like creatures. But it's kind of given all, it's really obvious given all those teeth it has on it. Okay. Also, it is pretty much a very base weapon comparable to the other starter weapons of the game. So it's, in a sense, it's kind of like the threaded cane, but better. At least the strength version of it, if you will. Alright, that's some pretty basic pros. Now cons, well, it has no special traits inherently aside from the serrated damage, which is not a really big whoop in my opinion. It's there, it's nice, but not really end-all be-all. But yeah, moving on from that, let's go on to the score for this. Damage, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Respectable, average. A reach, I'm going to give that a 4 out of 10. It's not a gigantic reach, but it's not short range. Well, not the shortest range it could be. Animation, I give that a 5 out of 10. It's fairly basic animation, nothing exceptionally new or exciting. Bonus, I'm going to give that a 4 out of 10. This weapon's not really heavy into bonus. Whereas much as the cleaver could probably benefit if it was rebalanced, but the whip version is the drawback to that. Miscellaneous, it gives a 5 out of 10. Nothing exceptional, nothing great. It's simply the short version of your whip. They're like the gentleman's cane of the threaded cane. So in total, the Beast Cleaver gets the 24 out of 50. It just meets that bad stats, mainly because of how I consider this more of an endgame tool, since that's where you get it, in the old Hunter's region. Now moving on to the Beast Whip of the Beast Cutter's weapon. Now, for pros, the weapon has incredible AoE potential. The wide angle of attacks it has is amazing. Not only that, it also has a very long range to some of its attacks, outclassing many other opponents in the game if used properly. Alright, and also has a serrated damage as well, as I mentioned earlier, so that's nice. And is the more powerful whip of the game compared to the threaded cane, well, all depending on your build, but this is the strength version. And those are the pros. The cons, however, the weapon is quite slow, so enemies do have a lot of easy grounding cover in between your attacks, providing if you don't hit them. It can be awkward to use, because it is a whip. It is not the most elegant weapon to use. Or no, well, no more precision-based, I should say. But yes. And not to mention, the thing consumes quite a bit of stamina to swing around, considering it's a whip. Alright, and there's no power attack either. For the whip, anyway. Okay, enough of the pros and cons. Going on to the score. Damage, I'm going to give a 4 to 10. Yes, a 4, because against a single opponent, you're better off using your cleaver. By far. It's only against groups is it excellent. Now, for reach, it gets a 9 out of 10, clearly. 10's reserved only for projectile weapons. And the animation, I'm going to give 8 out of 10. There's a very varied freaking amount of moves you got in this thing. There's so many different reaches, so many different angles, even short range attacks even. So you get a little bit of everything you would want out of this weapon in terms of animation and moveset. Bonus, same as before, is a 4 to 10. Same reasons. Miscellaneous, 7 out of 10. This is not the best weapon in the game to use, in my opinion, but it certainly is incredibly useful, and quite amusing to use too. But it does make some fights like ridiculously easy because of the reach. So in total, I give the Beast's Whip of the Beast Cutter 32 out of 50. It's an excellent weapon. Definitely so. Excellent, exceptional, however you want to word it. It's good. Okay, moving on to when the weapon is upgraded now, you can see that I got quite a bit of bonus damage out of it. Not quite double the amount, but coming close to it. So let's see what I could do in the extra performance. So, I'd say the weapon's definitely worth your time. Even in anyone's set, having such a wide-angled weapon, and considering most builds for most players are going to be strength-based, this weapon's easy pick up and use. Well, maybe not easy to use, but certainly useful in any light of how you shine on it. And I think that's going to be all for today. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Hope to see you guys next time. Take care out there.